Hello, and welcome to the video, Adding Voice with Drapes, Part 2. Today we're going to look at a few other ways to add voice to your writing using the strategy of drapes. We are not going to focus on personal experiences because so often when you're doing research and writing a research essay on it, you don't really have personal experiences to go along with it. So today we're going to focus on example and statistic. And both of these are easy, great ways to add voice to your writing. Let's talk about an example. An example provides more specific information to your reader, and it helps the reader understand something better, usually with specific details. Why don't you pause the video and read my paragraph about the Pilgrims sailing on the Mayflower. You can see in my paragraph, I'm trying to show the reader that this was a difficult journey and that the Pilgrims did not have a good time on the Mayflower. I also mentioned foods that they ate every day for the entire trip, but I don't give my reader an example of what the foods are going to be. And to really show how difficult this journey is, I want to show that they weren't eating foods that we would eat on a cruise ship. They were eating the same very simple foods every day. So I want to include that as my example. I'm going to go back to my research and I'm going to take a look at some of the foods that they did eat. I'm going to change the color. I know that they ate salt horse, hardtack, dried peas, beans, and cheese. These are some of the foods they ate on the Mayflower. And now I need to turn that into a sentence now that I have my information. So one way that's really easy to include an example is to use the transition that shows that. Again, I'm going to change my color to blue so you can see what I do. And I'm just going to say, for example, the Pilgrims ate salt horse, hardtack, dried peas, beans, and cheese, period. I could leave it like this, and this sentence makes sense, it fits my paragraph, and it gives more information, it gives me an example. However, I can also try to really show my reader that this was a difficult journey that was not fun for anyone. And by doing that, I can change what I just put in. So what if I try by saying, imagine if you had to eat salt horse, hardtack, dried peas, and beans, and cheese every day for 66 days. Yuck. So this way, not only am I giving an example, but I'm also reminding the reader that this was not a fun thing to do. Looking back in my sentence, I'm also noticing I use two words or phrases that they might not know if they don't know about the Pilgrims. This is another thing I have to remember in my research. If I'm using words that not everyone knows, I have to explain them. I'm just going to simply add another sentence to tell my reader what these are. Salt horse was salted meat, such as beef or pork, and hardtack was a dry, hard biscuit. So not only was I able to add an example giving the foods that the Pilgrims ate on the Mayflower, I was also able to explain two words that my reader now will understand. Another way that you can use drapes to add voice is with a statistic. A statistic is a number that helps your reader clearly understand something. Instead of saying something is many, or there's much of something. If we use a number, it's much clearer, like 92%. Or instead of saying few, you might use the statistic only 6. Again, this gives our reader more information. Let's see what this looks like in a paragraph. We all know that we can recycle plastic. However, there is still a lot of plastic in our landfills. People should be careful about what they throw in the garbage. Always double check to make sure an item cannot be recycled. Let's take a look at some numbers that I can include in this paragraph to help my reader really understand how much plastic is in my landfills. I did a little more research, and this is some information I came up with. Right now, there are 5.5 billion tons of plastic waste in the landfills. And scientists think that if we continue to throw away plastic like we're doing, that by 2050, there might be 13.2 billion tons in the landfills. And another interesting fact I found is that Americans throw away 500 million straws every day in the United States. And just looking at how big these numbers are, I think my reader is really going to understand how bad this problem is using these statistics. So let's try to find out where I can include these in my writing. We all know that we can recycle plastic. However, there is still a lot of plastic in our landfills. I think right here is where we should include this statistic. I'm going to pause the video and add that in, and let's see if what I write is what you were thinking. Okay, let's take a look at what I've added. So first I said, believe it or not, there is 5.5 billion tons of plastic in our landfills. Then I did keep my sentence about how people should be careful because I felt that the next statistic fit with that statement very well. And I explained how scientists believe that if we continue to throw away plastic, there could be 13.2 billion tons of plastic in our landfills by 2050. And then I added my own comment about that. That is way too much plastic. Always double check to make sure an item cannot be recycled. I think this is a good place for me to add my information about the straws, because I do think that's interesting. And I think the reader would benefit from knowing how much plastic is thrown away in just straws every day. And this is where I can put that sentence at the end of my paragraph for now. Always double check to make sure an item cannot be recycled. In America, people throw away 500 straws every day. So just to let my reader know a specific number of something that's being thrown out that maybe could be recycled or not used at all. So I was able to use my research to find 3 different facts or 3 different numbers and then include them in my paragraph to make it that much clearer. So why don't you head to your writing and try to find a place where you can either add an example, or if you have numbers that you found while researching, you can also try to add a statistics. Have fun.